Um, I have to send a request for that. There we go.
I don't know why, but yeah, okay.
All right.
Okay. You're able to record now, right?
Yes, yes, it's going.
All right. I guess let's read the instructions first. Sinking ship, teamwork project. A fire, fire. I can't read. A fire
That's
on
all right. I got
board
it.
a ship has. Okay. A fireboard has destroyed the radio. From the rate of the water is rising inside your ship. Estimate that it is sink between 2 and 2.5 hours. The captain did not.
Captain did not tell the authorities of their destination. It'll take 45 minutes to launch the only lifeboat, and about 15 minutes for each person to be lowered into the boat so they can go, and they can only go one at a time. They can't jump as the water is shark infested. The nearest land is an uninhabited tropical island 30 kilometers away. Your
My
task
task
is to
is to.
decide which people will enter the boat. Everyone on board has
Mhm.
agreed to abide by your decision. The items held by individuals must stay with the owner. They cannot be transferred.
To
Work
others,
with your
to
team
other
to resolve
people.
an emergency situation.
Work with your team to resolve an emergency situation using negotiation tactics, eye languages, listen skills, paraphrasing, assertive messages, and conflict management techniques. Your participation is required. You will demonstrate the following communication skills: ability to manage contact effectively, ability to work effectively with others, ability to solve problems as a group, and ability to run meetings effectively. Your team will collaborate through Google to create an agenda for your meeting. You will meet with your team for one recorded Zoom/Google Meets Blackboard collaboration. I don't care what you use to meet virtually. If you can share your webcam and record the meeting, your team will take the meeting minutes. Your meeting will present the agenda, meeting minutes, and the video link in the to me through email. The project may push you beyond your comfort zone. You will have an individual score and a team score on a certain performance standard. Assume that someone in your group must set up a virtual meeting through Zoom or Google Meeting or any virtual meeting platform. To Google Meet, Google will have recording capabilities. I don't care what platform you choose, but you must be able to record the meeting as you show your camera and your screen. Zoom has a follow the speaker feature which will show you the camera of a person with a person speaking. That's okay. I must be able to see everyone, hear everyone, and see what or anyone is sharing on the screen during the meeting. A team leader will record the meeting, saving the recording, upload to YouTube, send me the link along with the agenda and the meeting minutes. The time limit for the meeting. Your meeting, if organized with an agenda ahead of time, should not take less than 20 minutes or no more than 30 minutes to come to a decision to the point you have to save in the lifeboat. Okay.
Okay. The
You
passenger
since we're both.
list.
Hmm?
What's that?
I was like, since we're have to do meeting minutes and the what was that?
Yeah,
You said
I've
you.
got the timestamps for that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
You're ahead of the game.
Yep.
Sheesh.
All
All
right.
right.
So, passenger and crew list. We've got the captain of the ship. He's 57 years old, married 3 times with 5 children between 5 and 27 years old. Youngest child has Down syndrome, drinks and smokes heavily, plays the accordion, carries a bottle of rum. Then you've got the ship's engineer, married and accompanied by his pregnant wife. His heroism in fighting the fire has given his fellow passengers time to launch the lifeboat, but he has sustained severe burns. He carries a shaving mirror. The ship's radio operator was brought up on a farm. He's a fitness fanatic and champion kickboxer. He escaped the fire, which destroyed his radio, as he was on deck trying to impress the food scientist with a display of his kickboxing skills. Carries a length of rope.
We could take turns.
Okay.
So I could do the cook. A former special forces officer reduces to working as a cook after being court-martialed following an unfortunate incident involving a torpedo and a presidential yacht. Carries a knife.
Okay.
And then
And
Angelico Priest, a philosopher graduate who taught English as a foreigner language in South America for several years before returning to her home, took a look after her disabled mom, now 85, with whom she still lives, trained as a counselor and was ordained. Is that how you say it? Ordained
yep,
in
ordained.
1990. She carries a first aid kit.
Diving instructor. After 20 years as a stockbroker in London, he just moved to Tahiti to set up his own diving school. Divorced with a son at boarding school in Wales, an avid hunter carries a signed copy of the final Harry Potter novel.
Uh,
And Car-
Carpenter, married with 4 children, aged between 6 months and 7 years old, was convicted of inciting a riot following a demonstration in California 10 years ago. Writes poetry and has had 2 poems published in literary magazine. Has a magnifying glass.
Got a botany student, lived in the Brazilian rainforest for 18 months while carrying out PhD research into plants that can be used in anti cancer drugs. These are now undergoing testing by a major multinational pharmaceutical company. Voted for Mitt Romney in the last presidential election, has a rifle.
A retired soldier recently registered a civil partnership with his long-term partner, a 45-year-old political journalist. Together, they companied for improved healthcare for soldiers wounded in Iraq, carries a compass.
Food scientist, a vegetarian whose research centers on developing plant based, low cholesterol alternatives to meat. She has been involved in a number of demonstrations against the use of animals in medical research, carries a box of Snickers.
Nurse came to America 8 years ago as a teenage refugee from Sudan who spoke no English on arrival. Gained a college degree, has recently received her registered nurse license, carries a box of matches.
Okay. Ship's engineer's wife, 35 years old, about to begin maternity leave from her work as a medical sales representative. Due to give birth to their first child in 4 months. For some reason known only to her, she happens to be carrying a fishing line and a hook.
Bank manager, lives in Dallas, is a Boy Scout leader, serves his church, and is president of a volunteer group in his spare time. He has $75,000 in $5 bills carried in small suitcases. I
Uh,
think that's
all right, so scroll back to the top if you could.
yes, sir.
All right, so we're looking at a fire on board a ship has destroyed the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there's a hole somewhere in the boat because it is taking on water.
Right.
Um, it doesn't say how fast the boat can travel in its potentially crippled state. It doesn't say that the ship is still on fire.
Mm-mm. It
Um,
just says it takes 45 minutes to launch only a boat, and then it will take 15 minutes for each person to be lowered into it.
yes. So there are a couple of thoughts that I have in regards to um, just the overall possibilities for this. It doesn't say that the ship is disabled. It doesn't say if the ship has an engine or not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, if the boat is still like if it has an engine and it's still able to be driven, they could make it to the uninhabited island before the boat sinks.
Correct, because it would just make a shorter time if and only if halfway through they could just paddle through it and just possibly still make it.
Yeah. Um, the the other thing is if the ship is not on fire, everyone can focus on specifically on figuring out who's going and who's not. Um,
Right.
so let's see here. As far as getting people into the lifeboat, um,
I
it's going to take
think
15 minutes per person to get into the lifeboat once it's lowered.
Right.
But it doesn't say anything about not loading people into the ship before or into the lifeboat before they launch it.
Mm-hmm. It just tells you the kilometers away from the island.
Yeah. Hmm. All right.
Because if we
So
let's
what
say if
are
we go, uh-huh.
I say what are your thoughts as far as who should get to go on the lifeboat? Because if we assume they have 2.5 hours, that
Mm-hmm.
means 45 minutes of that is going to get eaten up by um, yeah, my brain. Sorry. 45 minutes of that is going to get eaten up by lowering the lifeboat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if they have to lower the lifeboat first, um, that leaves them roughly an hour and 45 minutes, which means 7 people can be saved
Yes.
if they're not able to preload people on the boat beforehand.
Mm-hmm. So if we're being tactical, we would need a leader who can manage and calm everybody, and then someone who can give directions. And then basically like your all the needs have to be found in each specific person. Like I would
Yes.
say somebody who can control the situation, meaning there's no worries, there's no like, oh, I can't think. I already thought they don't think ahead, but they're able to like if they see something, they'll speak up. So that'll be like a leader, and then there's other not abilities, but other things that they could probably pinpoint on.
Yeah. Can you scroll back down to the list
Mm-hmm.
of people? Okay. So the ship's engineer has sustained severe burns. So
Mm-hmm.
wherever the engineer goes, it would probably be a smart idea to have the priest with the first aid kit and the
The,
nurse
mm-hmm.
all
Because she
together.
could. Mm-hmm.
Because with the first aid kit and her knowledge, she can treat the burns, and he seems to be the only one with any injuries.
Yep.
So it would make sense for the three of them to stay together, whether that's on the lifeboat or not. And
True.
since the engineer has his wife with him, she should realistically, at least in my opinion, the ethical thing to do would not be to split the family up. Um, so that would put
Ethically, yeah, that sounds right.
that's 4 of our 7 if they're going on the lifeboat.
Mm-hmm. Because he has a what, pregnant wife and
And
what's
yeah,
the
she is
passengers?
also on the ship with them.
Mm-hmm. So that's yeah, that leaves us with four. So then
And
now
then
let's
lowering the 4 of them would take an hour.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Big
Um,
boxes. Former special forces officer to as a cook. I mean, because a lot of these people don't really like carry use necessity things. It's more like knives
right, like
and
like like a signed copy of Harry Potter.
uh-huh. And then carrying shaving cream, carrying a shaving mirror. I don't think that's really a necessity, but he's more useful because let's say the lifeboat isn't wrong or something goes wrong, he's able to repair it.
Yep.
Um,
Um.
and let's
Hmm.
per se the ship or radio operator. Yes, it's. I think he's wouldn't be as much as an opponent because the radio's already broken, but
Yeah.
he's escaped to destroy his radio. He was decked trying to impress food scientists to display his kickboxing skills. Yeah, that wouldn't even help nobody. It would just be like it would be like a extra kind of thing.
Yes. Um. Scroll down a little bit more if you could.
You're good. Tell me when you want me to stop.
Um. A little bit further. Let's look at the second half of the list.
Uh-huh.
Um, if they're going to be stranded on the yeah, if they're going to be stranded, I would say
The
um
nurse. The nurse
well
is
the,
pretty
the
good.
the nurse we already had on our list.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we had the engineer, his wife,
Hmm.
the nurse, and the priest because the priest had the first aid kit.
Yes.
Um,
I would say the bounty student's probably a good one too, just for protection. You know how he has a rifle.
let's say
That's
the botany
usually
student, the retired soldier, and this is going to sound weird, but the
uh
bank manager.
that lives in Dallas, Skeleton
He's got
Church.
$75,000 in $5 bills. The nurse has matches. They can light that money on fire to create a fire if they need food.
Big fire, yeah.
Um,
Because at that point in time, it's not about money. It's about who
it,
can
it's
use
it's
their
yes,
stuff.
it is
Exactly.
100% about survival. Granted, we don't know the size of this island. We don't know anything about it. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I think that would be, in my opinion, my list of how like the seven people that would be able to be loaded into the lifeboat after the
Mm.
lifeboat's been lowered.
Right.
And again, that is assuming that we're not able to load anyone in the lifeboat beforehand, because it doesn't say how much weight the boat can carry to be lowered into the water. So realistically, you could load everybody in the boat beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And on that
It just
same
tells you how many minutes.
on that same token, if the lifeboat is just sitting on the deck, you load everybody in the lifeboat
Mm-hmm.
and you don't even bother lowering the lifeboat. You just let the boat sink, let the ship sink, and the lifeboat will float off.
Correct. You just have to unhook it and then you can take off. Yeah.
Or you just fire up the engine and go as far as you can towards the deserted island and then load everybody in the boat and let it sink.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because
I
most.
guess
Mm-hmm.
I don't
What
know.
were you gonna say?
Do you have any other thoughts on
Nah, you pretty
um
much hit the nail on the box. I couldn't really think much. I'm just like, that's pretty logical. It's survival of the fittest. You can't really like most of them are it's like, what can you use? It's an island. You have matches, you have paper, you have a nurse who can and basically would I don't know what specialty, but she could probably amputate any infection or cut
yep.
off limbs in order for survival. And then you have a
Yep.
possibly the botany student. That's
Mm-hmm.
for safety in case of a big creature like we don't know specifically what creature they might have, like a snake, a
Yep.
crab. It could be a bear for all we know,
Or,
or
or for hunting for food.
hunting for food. Correct. And I was kind of also thinking the retired soldier, because since we meant, I don't know if that's because he carries a compass. Maybe if the island's so big, they could easily just coordinate. Okay, north is where the river's at, south is where this is at, and east
Yep.
and west. But I don't know. But like, they didn't describe the island. It just said a island.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's um, so we had agreed on the engineer mainly because he's injured. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the engineer's wife, the nurse,
Mm-hmm.
the priest because the priest has the first aid kit.
Uh-huh.
Um,
The
the bank
nurse.
manager, the botany student, and the retired soldier.
Uh-huh.
That that makes the most sense as far as um, taking care of people and possible survivability on the island. Um, and I think I'm comfortable with that. There's some ethics questions that can be looked at as far as who has family, um, but that doesn't necessarily contribute to their survivability after making landfall on this deserted island.
Correct. Because ethically, we could put that into perspective. Like most of them, or not all of them, have families and wives
Yep.
or husbands. And it would just be like an even playing field because everybody would be like, no, 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 no. I have a bigger family. I provide. But the others could be like, I do too. And I provide for my wife or husband.
Or I mean, we could pull a Titanic, women and children first.
Correct.
Like there's too many options.
Hmm.
I still like my thinking outside the box and saying just put everybody on the lifeboat, put the big boat in gear,
Hmm.
and fire it towards the nearest land. And if it sinks, then everybody's already in the lifeboat, and the lifeboat will just float off.
Correct.
That way, there's no decision to be made. It's just all right. Hey, we're going this direction. If the boat sinks, everybody will be in the lifeboat, and then we just move the lifeboat to land.
And it wouldn't be like survival of the fittest. It would be like, oh, it's all equal, all fair
Oh,
game.
all right, cool.
Whoever.
Everybody's here, and now we can figure out how to take care of life.
Hmm. Because it didn't say specifically the amount of people that needed to be on it. It just said that it was gonna lower and how long it would take. So
Correct. And it
technically,
didn't
that is an
say that it
option.
couldn't be lowered full
That too.
because, again, like historically, if you look at like Titanic, they filled the lifeboat and then lowered it over the side.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and in um, every ship scenario that I've seen, it's been the lifeboats are filled and then lowered. Um, hmm,
And it's ironic because most of the time, it's time. It's not time that it's against them. It's the what's it called? Like the rush or the rush is
the
like
panic.
the panic is what's against them.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
I agree. I completely agree for the option that we left. I mean, that's the most easygoing and the most make sense for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I'm again, like I've been mulling this over for a while, but yeah, I like the idea of just putting everybody in the lifeboat ahead of time and pointing the ship towards land and engaging the engines. Because I'm assuming if it's out in the ocean, it has to have an engine, and there is nothing stating that the engine has been disabled.
It just said the ship
So
has been on fire.
it said there was a fire on in the radio stack. So there's nothing saying that that boat is on fire or is like out of commission other than hey, there's a hole that's letting in water.
And all we know too is that the radio guy was trying to impress somebody. So it could have been just a human error and would have caused the
Uh-huh.
fire.
Yep.
Exactly. Because
Could have been
it
something
never.
ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
but
Or it could have been it could, for all we know, it could have been the kitchen that next to the radio.
possible. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think I think the idea of yeah, just point the ship in a direction towards land, go full
Hmm.
throttle to get there as quickly as possible, and have everybody waiting in the lifeboat just in case. And at that
So.
point, um, I would say if the lifeboat is sitting on deck, just cut it loose ahead of time.
Hmm.
And then if the ship goes down, the lifeboat's already cut loose and it just floats away.
Nope. And they just paddle away or use the engine and take off.
Yep. So I'm content with that idea.
Me too.
So and if that plan works, then we've saved everybody and didn't have to make any tough decisions, at least until they're on the island, and that's Survivor, and that's not my job.
Yeah, yeah.
But
All of our basic our attention span is to get them on the island, not to who
yep,
can survive. Yeah.
yep. So yeah, our plan is effectively has everybody surviving rather than just seven of them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Cool.
Right. Let's just. I want to make sure that we didn't miss much, or we're not missing anything.
Yeah,
Like,
we can go look back through this real quick.
You were demonstrating communicate skills. We did do that. We communicated. Meetings. It's just basically telling the platforms we could use.
Yep.
Work with your team to resolve
Um,
emergency.
A
I
fire on board a
languages.
ship has destroyed the radio. From the rate the water is rising inside the ship, you estimate that it will sink between 2 and 2.5 hours from now. The captain did not tell the authorities where their destination was. Nearest land is an uninhabited tropical island 30 kilometers away. Um, yeah, I think we've
Most
covered
of it.
everything.
Mhm. What's the timesheet? I don't get that. Do you know what that is?
The time limit. So it
Yeah.
meant the meeting was supposed to be a minimum of 20 minutes, effectively.
Okay.
So yeah, and we're good there.
Okay.
So
No, because I remember in class you mentioned the timesheet. I don't know. Is that supposed to be like a list of
oh
what
yeah,
we were doing?
I've got that. That'll be part of the meeting, the minutes. So yeah, we're good there.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, sounds good.
Cool.
I think we covered it all. I think that's the most logical. I think a logical thing we could do.
Yep. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording.